So Andrew and I, we're starting a podcast, and this is just sort of as two guys who've been in sales and implementation of tire software. We just wanted to be able to freely talk some smack about the stuff we see in the industry that just blows our mind. Like, I don't know about you, Andrew, but I sometimes I don't understand things. So.
That's fair. Seen a lot of those things throughout the years for sure.
Yep. So one fun thing that we see a lot of customers do is we'll be in a demo and someone will say, "Hey, can you move that line up?"
You got to be kidding me.
Like, well, you mean just move this line from here to here? Yeah. You mean like this? You just click it and you go up. And that just makes them feel amazing. It's like, yeah. And it's, makes you think from the system that they're on, like what kind of daily pressure do they go through just to show an invoice to a customer, or something presentable to a customer? It's just insane. Yeah.
And it would, just to make sure, it was it a product that was sold onto a work order?
Yeah. So it's line items they're adding, right? Like it's just, I'm going to do a brake job. I'm going to do this. Oh, I don't want to do this one thing. And then they didn't put it on the invoice or put it on the work order in the sequence that they wanted to present it to the customer. So they just want to move one of those lines up or down or arrange that information.
Right.
And it's just impossible for solutions to do. And these are mostly like softwares written in the 90s, right? Like they're just trying to slap some lipstick and say, "Oh, look, we were on the web." But the bones are still the rigid structure that can't move. And it's just crazy that people are still living through that today. It's mind-blowing.
Well, yeah, and I want to say that some of those, I've seen some service writers who really, they just don't care at the end of the day of what their invoice looks like. They could end up having the labor line for a water pump as an example, then a brake flush, and then they would end up having the water pump for that all the way down at the bottom. But then there's folks that want to have them, grouped together. So I guess in that example, what would they have had to have done? They'd probably have to delete the items in between that first one and then that last one, I guess. Or did they say that?
So to my knowledge, when we were showing this to them, they were just super relieved. We didn't really get a chance to map it out, but our understanding was yes, they would build the work order, decide this is what I'm going to do, then go delete a bunch of lines, then memorize how they wanted those lines and build that work order again, just so they could present an invoice to the customer. So they didn't yell about, well, what is this labor line and what? Anyway, it's insane. It just blows your mind that people are still kind of going through that. Another one, I know you were talking about just people calling in a busy shop and trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and I wasn't working for this company, but I was in doing some software work for them, and it was so sad. I ended up having to laugh. It was really all, and I ended up, I think, helping that customer out or that service writer out a little bit. But a customer had called in and they wanted to know what the status of their vehicle was. I knew that. The guy answered it on speakerphone there at the shop. And there was a lobby of other customers that were waiting. Then we had a couple of other people up at a counter. He was late getting in that morning. And then the other person had to go, that was there in the front, had to go find a part or go pick one up somewhere. And I felt really bad. This person was just running back and forth. They were just trying to do any and everything that they could. But this lady had said, "Hey, I dropped off my vehicle and I've not heard anything on it. I've got to have it back today. You guys said you were going to give it back to me today." And I could see this person's face just starting to turn red, as they're kind of going through the pressure cooker, right? And so he said, "Hey, let me put you on hold. Let me go find the status." So put the customer on hold. The service writer was looking around trying to find the work order, couldn't find it quickly, didn't see any tags or anything that was helping tell what the status of that vehicle was. So this person ended up basically frantically running from the front all the way over to the back of the shop, trying to talk with the shop foreman. And yeah, it was kind of like a swag. It's like, well, could you have done that? But at the end of the day, they ended up getting the vehicle done and this and that. But the customer, when she came in to pick up her vehicle, she goes, "You guys need to work on your communication."
I mean, it's crazy how simple this stuff is, right? Like if you think about like, what's the question being asked? What is the status of my vehicle? Well, part of it says, hey, you probably have, bad internal mechanisms on just how you communicate, meaning when something moves from waiting on parts to, in progress, do you trigger text messages or are you sending communication to customers, right? That's just one piece. But then if I'm in your shop and I have to track down a person or a piece of paper to figure out what the status of an item is, like we'll share a screen to give you an example of just, someone just going in and saying, hey, these are the 20 things available. The person's name is Wayne. All right, that's good enough. Let's get a start. All right, this is the car that Wayne has. Oh, I can see that it's in bay 3 and it's in this, status. It's in progress or it's ready for pickup. I don't even, need to go do anything forget that. Like this is not an external request where a customer is asking for something. You just have a tag, a key tag, and you just don't know which customer or, where this is supposed to go or what the stage is.
Yeah. I have 19 Ford keys. Which one is this? Who's it to?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's just interesting that that problem exists in the modern day where you can so easily access information. And we'll give you some demos on like how that information is so easily solved these days. But so that was one. I think personally, for me, one of the craziest thing is when people talk through inventory challenges that they're having. Another one, this is really, it's just shocking that, this is what they have to go through with systems. So just to, let's say, search another store's inventory is a really difficult task, but not just that. If I want to go request inventory, that store has to create a transfer, then process the transfer, then I have to create a transfer in, then accept it. And it's all of that work is essentially making people not want to do that or missing that work or forgetting to do it and then having bad inventory where your inventories, just, it's like a feeling. It's not even data. So
no, and the biggest thing is, if you're a multi-location user, you want to sell what you've already purchased, right? If it's over at a different location, you want to know that. You don't want to say, well, I've got another set of those tires on the shelf, 5 miles away, but it's just easier for me to pick up the phone or get on the vendor's website and get another set coming. You don't want that. You don't want to have barriers in place for someone, at a counter who's just trying to source some parts and get the customer's vehicle out to not be able to, quickly get a transfer created. It's mind-boggling.
And just a technical reason for why that mostly is the case. In a lot of the solutions out in the market are what we call in the industry single tenant solutions. So their entire database is just one store. So you open it up another store, that's a second database. And now like these two different databases need to talk to each other. And so you have to create a transfer here and then create a transfer here and then receive it here. And then it's meaningless, monkey on a keyboard kind of work that's just adds no value to people's day. If they just had an enterprise database where, store A, B, C, D, E, F, however many are just no different from products. They're just fields in the database. It makes things so much smoother. But, part of it is it's a challenge for these software companies because they can't really undo their core structure anymore. It is what it is. So that's how it sits in the system. There isn't really much room to replace. So really unfortunate, but it's just funny that people are willing to go through that. And just because that's the system they have, and that's sort of, the pain that they're used to.
And what they know and what they're somewhat comfortable with, sadly, but
another one just in line with that enterprise data, And this one really blows my mind is if I have 3 stores and I want to know their sales, I can go into store A, find the sales, then I will go into store B, find the sales, and then I will go into store C and find the sales. There's no...
You can't add them, and then you have to go add them together.
What's...
Yeah.
You know, like, it just blows my mind that you have operators that are running an enterprise type business where they have multi-locations, and they're running each location as a separate business. And we recently onboarded a customer, and one of the things they were doing is they were actually buying shop supplies and other things like filters and things at completely different rates, not knowing that the other shop had better pricing available. And just because their accounting and their sort of underpinnings were on these different databases, they didn't have a view of that across the board. And it just blows my mind that data, like that people are comfortable running like an enterprise like that on a single tenant solution. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and you think about some of the technology, right? So you think back in a decade ago, you'd have these enterprise systems, and they were really kind of like what you mentioned, these individual businesses, but then they were reporting data up to like a home office, if you want to think about it that way, and then sending data back down. Well, you're going to have some of those delays in there, right? So it's not real time, but then you think, oh, decade later, we're going to have all the best technology. We have AI, we have this, and we have that. But really, at the end of the day, you've got some of these other systems that claim to be enterprise, or they tout that they are an enterprise platform, but they're really all these little separate databases, and not a multi-tenant database. Yeah, they're kind of stitched together, and it's like, well, you've pigeonholed yourself. I'm no designer or coder, but I would think you kind of stitched yourself into a way that you can't really unwind that to be able to really make it something where I've just got one database and I've got all these different locations within it. It's
and on the consumer side, on the business that's actually running this, it's just a nightmare. Just one thing comes to mind with that, like data is mostly internal, right? So, all right, I have to deal with the headache. But what about customers? Like, what if a customer goes from this shop to that shop? I have to go create that customer again. How do I know their vehicle history? How do I process, a refund or a warranty exchange or anything, right? Like, it's just, that's the part that just really gets me, that multi-shop owners today are comfortable going through that kind of business pain. And just because it's sort of, the solution that's been in, I feel like it's a boiling frog kind of analogy, where they've just sort of been used to it so much. And so that's probably one of my favorite parts, is in demos when we go through those kind of concerns and they see, well, this is too simple.
Yeah.
What do we do with the 7 guys that
and it's not just internally, right? It's about being able to get data quickly. I will never forget, and as a operations director for multi-location, I heard this, and I just had this pit in my stomach. It was a large fleet, national account, and even though that the system was enterprise, because of the type of way it was billed, you couldn't go back and see what any other work was done at a different location. So with all these stores that I had in one, kind of large metro market, we had a cleaning company. Their van came in, and the store had said, well, you need to have an evaporator core. It's no small job, but you want to have air conditioning in the middle of summer, right? And they ended up calling that fleet company for an approval, and that fleet company went back to the store and said, you guys just did this work at another location last month. So at that point, one, it's a warranty job, right? But secondarily, and probably the most important, that fleet manager is probably thinking about my company is, wow, they can't even get all the data out of their own system to know that they had done that work previously. We've already paid for it, and we're not going to pay for it again. It's covered under warranty.
Mm.
That
Yeah,
was-
no, that's insane.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you keep solving these problems for the industry. But
this is true.
that's it for Pressure Check Thursdays or whatever day we're deciding we're going to do this. If anybody else wants to talk smack about their software or things they don't like, we love listening to this stuff, and we love sort of, going through companies and getting an understanding of what's working, what's not working, and trying to solve business problems and reduce the amount of effort required in just doing business and making customers
Remove
happy.
the barriers and the silos.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. That's all, folks.